It's a brand new week on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Morayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hello, ladies.
Good morning.
Ryan, you look like a supermodel this morning.
Yes,
I feel like one this
look,
morning.
honestly, you look gorgeous.
Thank you.
How you
The
doing?
makeup artist Wumi just went all out this morning.
And it works. I'm looking at you on the screen and it's like,
Whoa.
Who's that?
Look like
girl?
$1 million.
Who's
Whoa.
that girl?
How was the weekend?
This is our
The
birthday week, so we need to see actually.
the weekend was amazing. From Saturday, Mariah took us out to lunch. We had a fantastic
We need to hail Mariam's
time.
discipline. She drank pepper soup all through in a buffet. No. We need to give it up for Mariam.
I held on strong.
She drank pepper soup alone
Yes.
all through the buffet. I'm telling you.
You know, I have a group of ladies that I'm coaching this month for keto, so at least you can hear. I went for a proper lunch date and I had only pepper soup because that's all that was compliant, yes. And then on Sunday, you ladies amazed me as usual. You came for my daughter's party. Thank you very much. It was so amazing.
It was a nice party.
Yes, I'm happy you guys. Everyone said they had fun. They had a
They made straw hats.
Yes.
Then they had to have what was the other one they did? They
They
planted.
planted,
They learned how to plant the little flowers. And me, I'm looking for oxygen in my house. So it was perfect. And I had 3 verses, so it was great. And then they saw the birds. There was a parrot.
So you see that bird, I need to tell the story of that bird. The owner of the birds, right, I'd never met prior to this event. And someone gave me the number. I called him to say this is what I was planning to do for my daughter's birthday. He thought it was a good idea. He keeps birds. These birds cost hundreds of thousands of naira.
Wow.
This man gives it to me. It was when he was giving it to me, he was like, oh, where do you live? To tell you how just a kind gentleman, Mr. Taiwo, no money was collected, no money was given.
It made a huge impact.
Nothing,
my
yes.
son's, my little boy, 3-year-old,
There are good people in Nigeria.
He said, I want the parrot on my hand. I said, parrot. I said, it's a bird. He said, parrot. It's come on my hand.
That's right
that
there.
was his first time ever seeing live birds, you know, and so it was.
My son was just all over the birds. The yellow one at the end, he was just all over it. So well done.
It's a good concept. I think we should.
And Mariah helped with the kids because for me, the kids were so overwhelming. I'm like, you're supposed to just sit down and do this. They were flying all around. Mariah took charge.
What birthday should be about, you know, have fun, but let it be lesson filled, not just dancing some funny dance.
It was a nice concept.
You know.
How you doing?
But I almost danced. I didn't feel very like. But Miriam, I wanted to shout out to you this morning because you underestimated your strength. I saw you do everything. I personally don't know how to host and cope under that kind of stress. It breaks me at some point. I might be losing it later at night, shouting everywhere. I'm tired. But you were able to keep it together. Well done.
Oh, thank you.
To have a 5-year-old birthday like that. But I paid back for my being absent on weekends. Over the weekend, I wasn't around Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And my husband was home all through wondering, where are you going? I said, school. And then we did birthday yesterday. By the time I got home, it was 22 a.m. this morning before I slept.
I was actually going to ask about your DSS visit, but we don't talk about it. We'll talk about it tomorrow. You don't think about it. We'll gist us later. Think of it and let us know the one you want to gist us. How are you doing, Subsy?
I'm good. So my weekend was also very packed. From Friday, I was invited to a group sharing at First Bank from my mentee, and this lady she just called me and said, I would do group sharing. She got a job in First Bank, I think like a year ago, and I've been mentoring her before then. So she said, come and talk about, I know you're always talking about digital, being positive, just talk about the effects of the digital media on our psychology and the feedback. It was supposed to be a 15-minute talk. I spoke for 30 minutes. There were questions. The head of the group had to come and say, guys, go and meet her personally for your questions. But people were they're not aware of the impact of what we're consuming online on them. So it was like, okay, I know this thing, but like you're breaking it down with examples that I could relate with. So that was really fun for me on Friday. Then birthday, I ate all that Mariam did not eat. I ate. I cannot sit down there because if you see the pouch in my stomach, the pouch looks like I'm 3 months pregnant, but it was radically blue. I had to, and I ate. Yesterday, I came late, I ate. It was just food this weekend.
The ladies and I went out on Saturday to
Thank you for hosting us.
That brunch, actually, at Radisson Blue was nice, was fun. And then Saturday, we went to your kids' party. It was a great weekend. It was nice to hang out with the ladies and the kids. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll go through the front pages of the newspaper. Stay with us. We'll be right back. starting with the Tribune, Nigerian Tribune. Ruga, rise, defend your ancestral lands. Shoyinka tell Nigerians. Oyo government and Algon in war of words over council probe. Alleged rape. Sheath your swords, Khan tells Fatoyinbo, Dakolo, and others. Only 86 billion naira out of 2.07 trillion naira released to public universities in 4 years, says investigation. JAM to reconfirm biometrics of UTME candidates. Sister stabs brother to death in Kano over choice of music. And the minority leadership leave reps alone, Clark tells PDP. Lots of stories here in Tribune. Let's take a couple. Let's start with the Fatoyinbo story.
Okay.
Who has that story?
Yes. So intervention is still being carried out, and Khan has has added his voice and saying that even though Fatoyinbo and his church is not an active member of Khan, but they're all Christians, and they hope that they work towards reconciliation. That's Fatoyinbo and Mrs. Dakolo. And they here specifically, let me quote them, says, while restating its earlier stance on Pastor Fatoyinbo not being an active member of the association, Khan, however, said his intervention was because Fatoyinbo and Dakolo were Christians, and the fact that Christ preached true love and forgiveness for those who repent.
Wow.
So
And they also said that the Holy Spirit will help it's the Holy Spirit's job, actually, to help resolve this kind of issues.
So I've watched the video because we're focusing on Busola Dakolo, and the reason they spoke out is because they felt that this has happened to multiple women.
Yeah.
And I watched the video of the second lady that released 1 hour. I was in tears. This is something if Khan didn't have anything better to say, they should zip up, because there are people that have been broken and hurt by this. You can't say Holy Ghost should deal with it, and you can't say they should sheath their sword. There should be forgiveness. I agree, Christian-like, but there should be restitution in that process, and there should be reprimanding that person so that such actions don't take place, because somebody will just feel like Holy Spirit will take over.
Yeah.
No.
Because once you just say you have repented, that should not absolve you of the consequences of the action.
So we actually like Khan better when they just said they're not that Fatoyinbo members. I like you better. But this one, please, let us move on to another story. The investigation. We have that story. Oh,
the young girl.
The sister that stabbed her brother.
Maria Suleiman. Who stabbed Maria. Who stabbed her brother at a wedding in Kano for playing the song that they had an altercation from the choice of songs he was playing. And, before you knew it, someone pulled a knife, stabbed her elder brother. She's 19, the elder brother is 30. And before he got to the hospital, he was dead.
There must be more to that story than that.
They had a disagreement over the type of music that was played at the wedding.
Exactly.
Very silly story.
And you bring out a knife and stab someone.
As you said, it may have been a
must be
series of
something more to
events
it.
that
No,
happened
no.
prior
Jam,
to
please.
that.
Who has that Jam story?
Okay, yeah, I do. So Jam is saying that they had been inundated with applications for change of name, change of, data, biometrics. And Jam says that it has noticed that a lot of the scam or fraud that's being perpetrated is by people who would they'll come in as themselves, write the exams, then apply to change the details of the biometrics, so their names, their states of origin, So they're saying that they're going to use this application to determine those who are honest and those who have been defrauding the system.
Okay,
So that's what
let's move on to Daily Sun. Rumbles over Ruga. 2 die, 9 injured in multiple accidents in Lagos Ibadan Expressway. Then I think it's the Nigerian Council of Women rejects Senator Abo's apology. Nigeria targets $30 billion as Buhari signs Africa Free Trade Pact. Atiku PDP call witnesses against Buhari today, and lawyers to seek probe of Abiola's death at ICC, that's International Criminal Court. I read that story, and lawyer Falana was saying that it's time for them to reopen the books and to understand, to bring to court the consequences that led to Abiola's death, and that and I think the Nobel laureate William Shinka also added that it was a good thing that Abiola has been recognized, that indeed that acknowledged that he actually won the election. Right now, it's been nice for them to include his name or put his picture amongst the others of past presidents, and to acknowledge that, and to further acknowledge the role Abiola played, it's important that we take this case to ICC to ensure that justice was served in its circumstances of his
Just one
death.
punishment to IBB. I want to
that's
take the
fine.
accident story.
Okay.
So, 2 people, as at 6:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, there was an accident involving 1 truck and 6 buses, passenger buses, and the truck broke down at Isara area of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And based on that, the FRSC judged that it was wrongful overtaking. So the truck was trying to turn into his own building, a construction firm, and 6 buses rammed into it, costing 2 lives, 9 seriously injured. Very preventable situation. I think that aside from us always saying that drive carefully, we should also have signals
There's also
for speed
the rule
limits
that
and
when
all
a
those
person
stuff.
is trafficking, except he wasn't
Give them
trafficking,
room.
they have the right of way. But in Nigeria, if you trafficate, you try to go, everybody will try to pass.
So the women, the Council of Women is saying that they
we did
rejected.
not agree to apology.
There must be restitution.
Consequences, restitution, like Kotokwe said, and short deterrence, because if everybody can apologize for assault, people would now start apologizing for rape as well.
They have 2 weeks. We're waiting for the
Police is
Senate.
also saying that they've tried to go to the store and that the owner of the shop has locked up. So it seems they were told that they probably traveled before the video
released
broke,
the
so they're
video.
probably out of the country. So they still need to get the investigation is still ongoing, but we need to be patient on the outcome.
But the Senate has 2 weeks to decide on what they will do internally to stop this action
who's
from
giving them 2
ever
weeks?
happening. They have a committee.
Okay.
They have 2 weeks
they
to
created a
decide.
committee,
Yeah,
right?
they have a
Okay.
committee to deal with this.
Let's
thing
move
in
on
2
very
weeks. So
quickly
we're waiting for what they will say.
to The Guardian. How to make Africa's free trade deal work for Nigeria. I would really like us to have that conversation, getting experts to shed more light on how this is going to work for us. But just to know that the president has actually signed off. How intolerant Yoruba leaders broke up Afenifere by Oshoba. Oshoba is still speaking. He's been talking for like a week now. All the papers have been carrying his
Details of
what his accounts of history, pretty much. Police arrest pastor, 3 others for alleged rape in Lagos. Let's talk about the African Free Trade Zone.
So the African Free Trade Zone, we finally signed, President signed over the weekend at Niger Republic, and now, you know, he's been hesitant about continuing with this. He's
But
been
the
delaying.
third to the last to
But
sign.
of course, his fears were confirmed by advisor, according to that report, that, you know, we need to increase our manufacturing power. For the free trade zone to work, you don't want to have products coming to your country for which you don't have competition.
Right.
Because immediately they just come in and take, and this place turns out to be a dump site for other products. So we do not have a strong manufacturing power. Unfortunately, our economy is down because of that, and we are not even looking into it.
It's a very fantastic idea.
Femi Adesina also said that free trade must also mean fair trade.
Yes.
So it needs to be fair on us, especially we don't have that capacity to compete.
It's a fantastic idea, because when I went for my part, it involved all Africa, people of African descent, and they kept pushing for intra-African trade. However, we are at a disadvantage because we don't have power. And for every time we are producing in Nigeria, your cost will be by far higher than any other country. So your products will not be able to compete with others, and you can't. So we need to deal with power, which will cost a whole lot of money, and we cannot sign trade that will not be favorable to our people.
So anyway, let's move on to The Nation, our final paper. Soyinka Oni to Nigerians: defend your ancestral lands. Jam to try exam cheats and impersonators. Clark urges PDP not to distract House. Let's talk about Ruga for a second. Who has that story?
Let me see the part. Okay. So what we have the Oni of the Fair and Wole Soyinka. They're saying that you know, I think they're just basically saying that when it comes to Ruga or giving the parts of their land to the government for settlement, you know, that they think that every region should be able to, you know, develop on their own, just like their own without having that influence.
Two situations actually prompted this response from Soyinka and Oba. One, the fact that the northern youth, we're saying they gave a 30-day ultimatum.
Yes.
Right?
So
that was an issue in response to that.
Yes.
And secondly, the fact that the allegations, or there's talks on the fact that they wanted to repeal the Land Use Act, which is supposed to be a state preference. Now it's supposed to. Now it's going to be. If they repeal it, such that the
state
states
won't have power over the land.
Won't have that power and authority over the land. So those are the two things that is causing Wole Soyinka and the Oni are saying, listen, you must protect your land.
Yeah, in the southwest as well, and
is also speaking up.
Ohaneze and the Middle Belt are also speaking up, and they're saying that, see, we're protecting our land.
They are condemning the 30-day ultimatum.
Yes,
that's the thing.
Okay, so
I think federal government should start to look towards what they call it, how to turn deserts, what they did in Dubai.
Yeah,
so
there's desertification, and then you're now redoing it.
We can actually have areas that are flooded, you know, start to pump water from there through pipelines and all that.
In the short term,
let's look at the long term. Let's even look at the long term, because I have not seen this plan at all in the works.
Yeah, man, that's even a different angle. What's even annoying me in this is that the audacity of the Nigerian youth group to be telling our president or our government that they give us a 30-day ultimatum. That's in itself.
So that's the challenge is that some people are saying now, based on from a particular region, is saying that why do we have people threatening the country with their face known and they are not arrested? Exactly. And they are not declared terrorists, they are not declared wanted, they are not declared against the government. You're not proscribing them, but you're prescribing another side of the country. Exactly. So nobody should, we are all one, and no ethnicity should feel superior to the other. We all work together.
I was just saying, talk about reclaiming the desert, so that these people coming down here, they have a problem. We've spotted the problem of criminalism, and we'd start ranching or Ruga was the solution. So we've spotted the problem of desertification. We should start to look for solutions, no matter how long term.
All of you that are causing problems and issues on the matter, let me just tell you something. Our daddy, Dangote, I hear that he's importing 50,000 cows.
He's going to start his own ranch. He wants to start to export.
He's going to get proper ranching and export. So while you're there, doing Ruga or no Ruga,
somebody has
our daddy is starting his own. So we are keen
Think like a billionaire.
Think like a billionaire. We are here talking about...
That's number one Fulani man.
Let's go on a break. When we come back,
we
have to go and visit our daddy.
Yes, sir.
Let's go and visit our daddy. If you're watching, Alhaji Dangote, please, we'd like you to go. We're going to break. When we come back, we actually saw His Excellency, former Governor Akwa Ibom State, Godswill Akpabio on Saturday. We invited him to the show. He promised he was going to be here. We called him Saturday, Sunday. He said he's going to be here. Okay. As of last night, he's going to be here. This morning, he's not picking up.
Aww.
So we are hoping he's on his way, hopefully, but it would be nice to have him at some point. But first, when we come back, we have our special guest from NDIC to give us some clarity on these issues of recapitalization, the fact empowering the SMEs, and issues of depositors' funds. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So Nigerians have been complaining about the way depositors' funds are treated and done. Now, the CBN, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, recently said, as a result of the devaluation of Naira compared to the dollar, a new policy needs to be put in place, which is the recapitalization of banks. In addition, there is a policy that banks must lend about 60% of their money to SMEs, which is the small and medium enterprises. Joining us on the show is the Director, Asset Management Department, Bashir Umar, and the Director, Special Insured Institutions Department, Mr. Joshua Etopidok. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
You can call us on 070-806-68014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweet. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being on the show today. A lot of Nigerians have issues concerning how the depositors' funds, the entire process. Actually, I would say we are more confused on how the depositors' funds are used, how the banks, if they are regulated, even if they are regulated, because we feel that they're regulated, that they have so much powers as banks. But how do we ensure that our own funds that we put in the banks are utilized appropriately, are not abused? Because we keep hearing of issues of GMs or directors being sacked for issues of misappropriation or just money laundering and all the other stuff. So how do we ensure that our funds are protected in the banks? Let's start with that.
Thank you. You know, the issue of, first of all, banking actually is the engine room of the economy because of the role that banks play in mobilizing funds from the surplus sector to actually giving it out to the deficit sector. So that efficiency is actually very critical to the actually economic development of this nation. So that is why basically any country is concerned with actually the financial system. Because once there is a breakdown of that, then actually it will impact negatively on your economic development and growth. So the issue of fund mobilization, you know that it has to be done efficiently. For what purpose? Actually for lending to those businesses that needs to use it to actually support economic development. So what matters is that there are a lot of institutions behind the scene that ensure the safety and soundness of these banks. One of the institutions is actually Central Bank, and another is actually NDIC. We do a lot of things, but nobody sees it because it is being done behind to ensure that actually our financial system is sound and efficient. So, and also the managers of those institutions actually are fit and proper.
So I'll let the ladies come in here, but one of the basic questions people ask out there is, I put my money in these banks. How come I can't access it? It's only people like the top tier that actually access this money. Those of us at the bottom, they're trying to build businesses. It's difficult. The policy, the interest rates are so low. And you're thinking, how am I going to benefit from the money I've been putting in the banks for years?
You have to understand that really all these institutions have what is called risk management. Because what matters is that whatever business you are coming with, it has an element of risk. So they have to know that really, if they give, it's not their money. If they put that money into your idea, will it come back or will it go? So that matters. And many people that comes actually to this business, they don't do their homework well. Before you know it, actually you find out that actually the businesses are not sound. So actually they cannot be lent, to those kind of businesses.
But it's a little unfair to say that, because we have heard of big names and big businesses that get all these sort of huge loans and they never pay back. Just recently we were talking about trillions of Nigerian naira that's been held up by these big names and big corporations.
I'm listed out a few of those.
So why do they still, and then they would still get, if they go back, they'll still get based on their names. But a young startup business just never gets that chance.
You see, the issue, as I told you, that quite okay, businesses get bust, isn't it? And once you do that, you cannot say that for sure I'm guaranteeing that when I lend to this, actually it will not go bust. So you lend the money and sometimes it gets bust. So what matters is that how are depositors protected? That is why now when actually NDIC comes in and say, okay, I'm sure because you know that we insured actually depositors of deposit money banks up to the maximum of 500,000. But it doesn't mean those who have more than that are not protected, because the assets of the bank will continue to recover them and continue to actually pay this until such a time when we are able to recover all the funds and distribute it to them. So that's the issue. But the other one is that, as I told you, those other ones you see, business get bust and what have you, quite okay, yes. But there are some times where actually abuse happens in the system. So as such, you cannot rule out that. So if that happens, but that is why you see that some of the directors are prosecuted and managers to ensure that, it serves as an example that we get the system rid of all these kind of characters. Okay. So that is why we always ensure that we look at, are they fit and proper to run those institutions? What are their qualifications?
So let me go straight to the CBN and this new directive for banks to do a recapitalization. Why is it necessary, number one? Because we've done one in 2005, and the amount to get to 25 billion at the time seemed outrageous and impossible. Banks had to merge. Why did they regress from that particular position? And then there's also the suggestion that is due to the TSA, that banks didn't have the idea of how to do the business of banking, how to give out loan, make business. Some banks don't evolve in the business of banking. They don't know how to generate profit. They just sit on government intervention or government monies in their banks. How exactly did we get to this new directive? Is it the fault of the banks alone?
It's a good question, but let's do a little bit of background information so that we can see where we are coming from. You see, the bank's balance sheet, the bank's business is always a moving target. What is sufficient today will not be sufficient tomorrow. So to that extent, the issue of recapitalization continues to be recurring. Having said so, the global financial meltdown of 2008-2009 sets in motion a lot of new things that banks were expected to put in place. My colleague has just talked about the enterprise risk management. It's key because businesses by nature are risk. Banking business by nature are risk. And there are certain prudential ratios banks at any point in time have to satisfy, namely the liquidity ratio, the capital adequacy ratio, and all these things is a function of the kind of business you are doing. So for the purpose of recapitalization, let's start from the small banks that first get on the news sometimes March this year, namely the microfinance banks. Prior to this time, it was one size fits all. As a microfinance bank, unit MFB, 20 million. State MFB, 100 million. National MFB, 1 billion. But over time, you realize that because of the mere size of the amount, some people just put 20 million together, collect deposits in excess of 1 billion, and disappear into thin air. Because the owner of the 20 million may not have really filled the pens. But right now, with the recapitalization, we say you have to treat this as a business case. So for the unit MFB, we further break it into two levels. The rural MFB, with capitalization of 50 million, the urban urban unit.
You keep saying MFB. You don't know what MFB is.
Okay, rural microfinance banks.
Okay.
Those that are located in the rural areas. The capitalization expectation is 50 million. For those in the urban centers, the capitalization expectation is 200 million. Then for the state MFBs, those that can operate in one state all over, the capitalization is 1 billion. Then for the national MFBs, the capitalization requirement moved from 1 billion to 5 billion. And to make sure that life is a bit easy for the operators, it is segmented in terms of the fact that the first, you are expected to achieve 50% of this your expectation by April 2020. Then the next leg by April 2021. So there's a time.
Okay, let me pause you for a second because it's important that we communicate. And our viewers don't get lost in all the words because we're going to get lost. Let's break it down a bit.
Okay.
We heard in the papers that banks must lend 60% of their deposits to us, SME, small and medium scale businesses. Now, there's somebody there who's a small, medium scale, goes to the bank and they're having issues.
Yes.
What would you advise that person to do to be able to tap into this? And is this 60%, is it achievable? Because some people are saying it's not possible. Is it achievable? And what is CBN doing to ensure that the banks actually meet up with this 60%?
That the banks will not give demand of the lenders.
You see, prior to this time, far back at 2014, the federal government through CBN put together what we call the Medium Small Scale Enterprise Fund of 220 billion.
Okay.
That was on the backbone of a review by McKinsey Global Institute that puts the fact that 200 million MSMEs all over the world were without trading funds. So it was necessary that funds are targeted to assist them. Yes. But you see, the government fund is not inexhaustible. The 200 billion back then was big. So to make sure that this thing is sustainable, there was a need to bring in the private sector, namely the banks.
Right.
So as a matter of deliberate policy, the central bank now said 60% of your loanable funds should be given to the medium, small, micro, medium, small enterprises.
Right.
Yes.
So to that extent, which means in the books of the banks, there's going to be a line targeting loans to the MSMEs. So it's easy for the examiners in the course of their review to check, sir, as at this point, let's see how much you've given to these.
So this is a federal government intervention, and these monies are going through the private sector, the banks.
You just mentioned that there's a fund and then there's
the
a
fund,
private
partnership.
The new one is the private fund.
fund.
The government intervention is the 220 billion, which are still there.
Okay, let's go on a quick break. We'll continue. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, I had a question.
So what I realized from running business is that most small businesses, medium-scale and small-scale businesses, are not advised or empowered to know how to structure their business in a way that will make them eligible for the loans. So we hear these funds are available all the time, but whenever small businesses try to apply, they don't have the prerequisites for it. Can you, one, break down what the prerequisites are, and two, is there a government policy framework that would ensure that every business that gets registered gets trained? I know they do that in the UK. Once you get registered as a small business, they take you through a training on how to manage your books, how to prepare your accounts, how to employ. They do all that training so that the small businesses are better prepared to enable them succeed. So one, what's the policy? What are the requirements for a small and medium scale, a person that runs a business now, to access those loans? Okay. Number one. Number two, what do you think we can do to engage these small businesses and better position them to be able to access good funding and scale up?
It's okay. You see, business is business, and it should be treated as business. So for any person that wants to get into business, must have had a bankable idea. How do you know that your idea is bankable? There should be a feasibility report, a feasibility study that will throw up the financial indicators, that will throw up whether there's a market demand for what service or goods you are bringing to the table, and at the right price. Is it going to return profit? With this, banks give loans based on cash flow projections. So if that is put in place, they also look at what we call the governance structure. Who are the face behind this business? The chairman, the MD, and what have you. Are there persons that can manage money? Or are there persons, once the money gets into their hands, they end up in nightclubs or what have you? So when the banks are satisfied with this, they'll appraise your application, and if it's okay, they'll send it to the guys in risk management to review. Then they'll look at also what we call collaterals. But the ease of doing business in Nigeria has put together...
Go ahead.
Okay. Has put together the movable collateral registry. What that simply speaks to is the fact that your wristwatch, your chain, your expensive clothes can be used as collaterals, provided that collaterals will be engaged in a business that will bring back money. Let's take an example of somebody running a barbing shop. The barbing chair, the clippers, are good collaterals. Okay. The bank will evaluate it, and when they're evaluated, they'll fill what we call financing statement. That is online real-time stamped by a blockchain technology, registered with National Collateral Registry, which means you cannot use that particular asset to take loan from another bank.
So a baker now can use the oven and mixers and all of that as collateral.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's it.
Excellent.
Okay. So you want to add to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, he can use that. But what matters is that you see all these opportunities were there. Many of them actually are not aware for them to actually, key in. But what matters is that you see all banks have different criteria of actually assessing these facilities, because all of them look at risk differently. So what you need to do is actually to go there, get all this information. And there are many consultants, small consultants that actually can guide you. And give you out. That's it. Because those ones are operating also outside. The issue is that the funds in the banks actually are our own funds. You and me that puts money there. So they are very conscious of it, and they don't want to take risks, unnecessary risks that will actually jeopardize those funds, because that's what they live on. So that was why they make sure that, as he said, only bankable ideas actually are financed. Okay. Because our people, and you see many of them, as soon as some of them actually, they have that at the beginning, but as soon as these funds comes, it was actually diverted, and then it becomes something else.
Some of these policies seem very sophisticated. We need to understand that a large percentage of Nigerians have maybe limited education, limited exposure, but that does not mean that they do not have business ideas that make sense.
That is bankable.
Good. But Tokwe has said, is there any form of training? So we're looking for consultants who are not Harvard consultants that talk,
copy and paste.
We're talking about consultants that understand people that come from this background and be able to teach them and show them and guide them. So it's not that they don't have good business ideas. It's just the English maybe too much,
Let me join my question to Haz. These ideas are not localized by the banks. So the policies, the requirements the banks are bringing, are they localized to how businesses will work here? What an Accra business, for instance, It's very local, but it's profitable. Right. Are the banks using the Harvard standard to look at an Akara business and say there's no profit here? Do you understand? Is it not bankable? Can it not be repackaged and made bankable? You understand? That's exactly the...
What you are saying is a fact. If you talk to the microfinance banks operators, the phone Akara operators, the women grinding pepper by the street corners, they are very paying. That's the reason they're able to pay those interest rates. The other thing there is that the corporation and the central bank annually, we do what we call financial literacy program. We go to the secondary schools, the universities try to help the people that, look, you cannot just be looking at the sky. You can translate your talent, whatever passion you have, into business. So that is being done. And in addition, to make sure that these funds is available, the corporation, as far back as 2014, put together what we call differential premium assessment. What that simply speaks to is that a lot of new money is freed to the banks to use and do business. How does the differential premium assessment system works? It looks at a bank, how it is managed. A bank that is well managed, that keep their risk management in good shape, will pay less premium to the corporation. By that extension, money is freed for investment, for the banks to use in investing in MSMEs. So we've done that with the deposit money banks. We've done that with the primary mortgage banks. We're about doing that for the microfinance banks in Nigeria.
Let me take this call. Morning, are you there?
I'm there. I'm listening to you, ma.
Go ahead, please.
What really happens is I'm operating an account on Etusu Microfinance Bank. So the last deposit I made then was December. That was last year, December.
Okay.
Are you listening to what I'm saying?
Yes.
But unfortunately, the bank was closed down. And since then, I've not been operating again. And my money is there. So what can I do?
That's a good question.
Please, what can she do? What can the FDIC do for her?
Yeah, what happened is that in those cases, I don't know really whether we say close. Did it close on its own or its license actually was withdrawn? Because what matters is that, you know, there are institutions that actually get closed down, and since they are in far places without us knowing, normally what happens is that they are supposed to report to us that, oh, this bank has closed.
Okay, so she's supposed to report to NDIC.
But if it is already, the license is already withdrawn, I'm sure she will have seen NDIC officers there. And because that's what we do. As soon as the bank license is withdrawn, we get there, we take over the institutions and get all the listing of the depositors, and we come to pay them the maximum insurance.
So in this case, I think it's a closed case.
So that is what really she didn't explain. That's whether the license of the bank was withdrawn by CBN. As soon as that is done, NDIC is always appointed. But if it is just closed, then she should report, and then we take necessary action.
How will she report?
We have, she can use our email addresses, because she can go to us, I think, website. All the details about the process are there.
Okay, so
and the email, the website address is NDIC.
Go online. They'll go online and check it out. You can just look for it online, and you can actually make a complaint. Now, we hear of banks merging. We have wake up in the morning and find out that your bank used to be XYZ Bank, it's now ABC Bank, and you're thinking, what causes these things? What went wrong? You know, and then you just hear two banks have come together. What does that mean for us? So we just see these things happening up there. But we as Nigerians and depositors, we have no idea what exactly is going on in this circle. You
see, what matters is that business combinations and mergers, not only in banks but in any other field, happens. What matters is that, if you are operating at different institutions and you discover that actually you are coming together will give the owners more value and also will provide better services for whoever is enjoying, the services of that institution, they come together. So the same thing with banks. They discover that, look, coming for us together, we will have a better institutions and we can have enough resources actually to expand to other areas that we were not doing businesses. So it is good for all. That's what you see.
Not really. For the depositor, we feel like second-class citizens because my bank merged. And when I go to do change of something, or I want to implement a policy that should happen immediately, I am told that, are you part of the other one or the new one? And I say I'm the old one. They say, okay, sorry, we'll take 3 days before it would happen. It has not been integrated. And this is months after the merger has taken place. So every transaction I need to make that should be done is delayed because of that. And that affects the downtime for my business. Who do I report this to? This merging, how it affects other people's businesses, and what do they do?
You see, we have actually a CBN, they have Consumer Protection Department, and NDIC, we have all our lines. For if you have those kind of experiences, the best thing is actually to call. Call those lines and report it, and action will be taken. Because what matters is that, you see, as soon as you agree to match and you match, there is nothing like old or new. That's it. And all of you,
that we go
you are all on the same footing. That's what matters, and that's what you see. Unless if it is a different thing, really. But
we have to round up. I know that, yes, for tweets, please.
Yeah, we have tweets. Kayode Kaka says, the small business operators die under the heavy weight of egunje by bank officials and even government officials. And he said that, why does the regulator, CBN, allow investors to always have the short end of the stick, e.g., recently Skybank went under, robbing millions of Nigerians and shareholders losing all. Is that the true fact?
You see, a bridge bank was put together to midwife, it used to be Afri Bank to Main Street, from Main Street to Sky, from Sky to Polaris. At any point in time, the depositors' interests are protected. Remember, deposit insurance is for the protection.
What she's saying is the investors, so the shareholders.
What happened, you see, the issue is that shareholders normally, in any business, they bear the brunt of the risk of the business. If it fails, fine. And you know, their contribution to that institution compared to depositors' fund is so small. So that was why, what happened, what brought about this is that they lost their funds. In some cases, even they are eating into depositors' fund. So the authority has to come, look, our primary concern is actually the protection of the depositors. So that is why, at that time, anytime you take over in that situation, actually shareholders, because already they have lost their deposit.
Is there a different interest rate for this 60% going to small MSMEs, the medium and small scale businesses? Is there a different one or the same killer interest rate that we're complaining about?
You see, once again, it's a business case. If the funds are sourced through the MSME of Central Bank, the interest rate is about 9%. But if it's coming through the private funds from the private sector, it will be determined by each bank. You see, it's a business case you cannot regulate.
The banks have so much power.
But the issue is that, you see, if issue of interest rate, you see, actually is determined by so many things. It is determined by inflation rate, and because who are they? You know, people shop for interest, even the depositors, because that's what matters. And the banks have to add their own actually value to that before they can say this is our lending rate.
So 5%, you now come for loan, you get 15%.
That's the issue. What matters is that in all other climate where actually interest rate is down, you find out that what's spoiled is that they have a very good economic sound footing, and you see actually the inflation rate is very low and whatever. So these are the issues actually that determine issue of interest rate. And since Central Bank is doing its best to ensure that actually this interest is brought down. That is why even it has these intervention funds, giving them at 9% and whatever, to ensure that really through that process, actually the interest...
Well, we still have to bring you back at some point because there's a lot of issues we still have, especially with the Central Bank. Now with the new governor, everybody is continuing, and he just came up with the first week, he started throwing all sorts of policies at us. We still need somebody to help us break it down, to help us understand better. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. Is there any other thing you wanted to share with our viewers before we go?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, good. All right, let me go on a break. Unfortunately, it seems our former governor of Akwa Ibom has run away from us. He actually promised us that he'll be here this morning, but unfortunately, we've been calling his number, he's not here. So if you know His Excellency, former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Mr. Godswill Akpabio, please call him and tell him that the ladies of your view are still waiting for him. But first, we have to find a hot topic. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So since His Excellency Godswill Akpabio has refused to come, We'll move on to a very trending issue on social media. It seems this ongoing issue of rape is still on, as the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, added his 2 cents. Although he didn't say specifically he was addressing the issue, but we all just assumed he was. He said he feels compelled to say some things to the up-and-coming ministers, and he also said, we quote that, "I will never have a private secretary," in addition to what he said. He said he would never have a private secretary who is a woman. Now, a lot of Nigerians have linked this statement to the Biodun Fatoyinbo issue. What are your general thoughts on this? Amongst other things he said, I'd like to say a few other things that he said, but before we start going through what he said, what are your thoughts on the fact that a man of God, as revered as the pastor of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, RCCG, saying that he would never have a female secretary? Some people are saying, is that saying that you tempted, or you be tempted, or is it subjective? Let's hear your thoughts on this. You can call us on 070-806-68014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets.
His answer is part of the things he mentioned.
Yeah.
His number 3 points was abstain from every appearance of evil. Yeah. That is from 1 Thessalonians 5:22.
Then
and
read the 2 Timothy 1 as well.
The 2 Timothy 1, when you find yourself facing youthful lust, flee. Don't say you are highly anointed or something. Ask Samson. You may say I'm old-fashioned. I agree. I will never have private secretary with a woman. So the fact around it is that men are human beings, and like every human being, our body reacts whether they are anointed or not. What the Bible recommends is that you flee every appearance of evil.
But does that suggest that it's the women that are tempting?
No. Okay. It means you protect yourself as much as possible. Right. You will not carry your jewelry, your gold jewelry, and put it in the center table of your house. It's not that you don't trust your neighbors and your visitors, but you will not tempt yourself or tempt the person that's coming to visit you by putting your precious jewelry on the table. So that's the same thing. You protect what is important to you, and I'm happy that Daddy Gio is lending his voice to this on what should be done.
I want to discuss the issue people are raising.
Yes.
And it's important that we clear the air, that we're on all the same page. Now, if the comment is suggesting that don't be tempted, now is it that we say that it's the girls that tempted, if we're connecting to this case, are we saying it's the girls that tempted this pastor, number one? Number two, are we, but no more addressing a rape issue. I don't think he was addressing a rape issue, because this is just a temptation issue. Yeah. It has nothing to do with rape. So I didn't make the connection, but people are making the connection on social media like,
he dealt with rape first.
He was dealing with it. Yes, come in, go ahead, please.
Okay, as a Muslim now,
yes.
There are lots of things I agree with on what he has said, especially on the temptation issue, because it's your mind that you know. You do not know the limit or shortcomings of the next person. So in Islam, we are trained not to take hands of the opposite sex, to not freely mix with the opposite sex. It doesn't mean we've judged the opposite sex that is coming to us as going to abuse us. It's just to protect yourself. So what he's saying, it doesn't mean, it simply is that whether you are called like anointed or whatever or not, keep the distance required, because you do not know among the female, let's assume that 100 female members working around you, you do not know the one with the lustful mindset, and you cannot be sitting down and decipher which of them has a good intention to work with.
Protect yourself.
It's a lot of work on its own. So you can at least pick the people that will walk around you to limit as much as possible the temptation that you'll be seeing. It's just going back to what God has said from the beginning.
For me, I think he's also talking about self, because you only know yourself and you don't know the next person. And they're talking, I like this part, that's why I said Tokpa should read it. It says, when you find yourself facing youthful lust, the thing is that I think he's talking to especially young pastors. You're growing up, you're still trying to understand yourself. You're still trying to work on your flaws and your weaknesses. You're still faced with learning how to, you know, put body down, you know, and allow the mind and the spirit. Yes, you know. So those are struggles that you're fighting with, as well as, you know, having this anointing or this responsibility to guide the sheep.
Now
So he's saying that
go ahead. Sorry.
So when you finally get to the point where, you know, you find yourself in this position, what is important is that which is still hard for you to control, what is still hard for you, stay away from that.
Exactly.
So that it does not affect the main reason why you are a pastor or you're a leader.
Let me talk about this thing. Linking with Biodo Fato.
No, we don't want to link it.
No, there's a new video that came out on Friday, and the lady in question said she worked personally with this said Pastor Biodo, and she mentioned that his wife brought her into the house, which is why she's saying that the wife is aware of this thing too. So when a statement was that that's the allegation is that when you know your husband is someone who has a weakness for women, you should help him.
No, he should help himself.
She should help him because she brought women into the house. She brought them into the house. So you already exposed him.
Did.
She, according to what?
Even the Timmy Dakolo's wife account.
I don't really want us to bring back this Timmy Dakolo matter. I want us to focus on that quote, that quote that the pastor
there's a part of
the
quote
he said very, very clearly that he would never have a female secretary. Now let's bring up that issue of, is it right for a man of God, or is it inappropriate, or can a man of God say, I'm mature enough? You're a woman, I'm a man, I'm mature, I'm responsible enough not to be
just like to go back to
tempted. So let us deal with that statement. Because there are men of God today, or even men generally, that have female PAs. So if this man of God is saying,
who can control themselves? It's a personal preference. People love the nature of the person that has been accused of, and since we are not mentioning name, are people who should not work with female personal assistant or secretary around them. In fact, the entire team from head to toe should be male. Yes. People of his nature, because if you have a personal preference, you have a shortcoming that is your undoing, you should kill it. Some church people.
Let me take this call from the UK. Morning, are you there? Hello?
Yes, please.
Good morning. Go ahead, please.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is another new caller.
Okay. Welcome to the show.
First-time caller, please. Thank you very much. Actually, you just bear with me because I just woke up. I've been on night shift. But I'm a very good lover of your program. I always watch it every day.
Thank you very much.
I'm quite lucky to get through to this one.
Good to have you.
My own concern, to be honest, is I disagree with our Honorable Gio. I don't expect this comment from a man of God. Instead of, to me, personally, there's no temptation whatsoever compared to the rest of the world. Honestly, how do people dress to churches in Nigeria? Mosque? Not tempting. Our problem is because there's no rule of law. And people, our government, we never had we got the laws, but they never be implemented, as people used to say. If everybody, even women, I've seen women all over the world, look at the rest of the world, their secretaries or their staffs, the way they even dress, it's so, you cannot even qualify it in a Nigerian system. But if we have the law, everybody concerned will be concerned. You cannot trespass, you cannot, be respectful.
Thank you for that point, Tijani. That's an interesting point, because if you understand, yes, let us protect ourselves. But if you live in a society where even if you look at a girl in the wrong way, you can actually be accused of seduction. Harassment, actually. So you have now, in that kind of society, what do you say? You have to, you're compelled.
No. You don't see your personal assistant is someone that works with
that
you
devil
closely. Your personal assistant spends time with you. You discuss with the person.
There's the brushing of body,
so it is important
hands,
that.
But in Tijani's society where he lives in the UK, if that very seductive PA is always around you, puts her cleavage in your face, does everything, and you just do mistake and try to touch her, she can sue you for harassment.
So you don't employ that kind of person as your PA. You have a right to who will be your PA.
Yes.
Number one. on. There are, of course, things you cannot prevent, but the ones you bring into your inner circle are preventable. So guard and guide yourself as much as possible. Number one. Number two, many pastors I know don't even do counseling sessions behind closed doors. They will never. It's a policy in the church that we don't do counseling behind closed doors. Doors are always open to the pastor's office. At any point in time, if it's a woman, there's a witness there. This pastor had many meetings with women privately alone. So we are saying that you should flee every appearance. The Bible has this thing covered. Because when you hear it, if accusation comes up that, Lagbaja did things with Tamedu, they'll say, but they've never been together alone. So how could this have happened? But when you've already been with this person consistently, there is a case of something could have happened.
In the doctor's office, when you go to get checked, you have to have there's a female nurse. Yes. Be sure, because people accuse doctors of
when I went for my scan and they were going to be doing breast scan and it was a man that would be doing it, he called in a chaperone and the lady sat down right there while he was doing the check. So you must always have someone as a witness, because you don't want an accusation that they cannot deny later. When you have a woman of your mother in Israel, there is one pulling you to her husband's office, allegedly. That is the one. You have to start.
Morayo, you see how that thing worries me.
That's what we're told now.
You know how it worries me? When Bisola's story came first, and she said, I was invited to the house by mommy, you know, mommy of respect. And I have had to stay with family friends, to help them when they have a baby, to help them through that stage. My mother would say, go to your auntie's house, go and do that. And that's normal. I can only imagine if at some point my auntie is condoning and just says every time, oh yeah, call your sisters, because the husband would like to, and then I'm called, I've come there out of trust for the family, to help the family, and then she disappears while I'm abused or allows it happen, I won't forgive her. And this is possible, that this thing happen. So you know, maybe the upper hand in the relationship is the man, and you just keep saying, that's the person I want, now get her. So she'll find a perfect excuse.
And there are cases of that.
These things happen.
So we must protect ourselves and protect those that are around us. That's on one side. On the other side is that when we have cases where someone has made accusations like that, everybody just jumps on the bandwagon and all of that, we should dig deeper. Two people cannot be lying, and there are multiple stories coming out.
Bringing it back to Fatima. I want to focus on what they are busy.
Excuse me.
Let me say something different.
Please.
I think I know where Mariah is going to, because a lot of people also, especially on social media, made it about feminism. They said that it is anti-feminist to say that you would not employ a female. And for me, I think it has nothing to do with that. That when it comes to your personal space, is it not even better? Is it not even better for us to know that this is my pastor and he has openly come out to say this is my weakness and my flaws, and that is why I would not like females to sit in front? You know, that we've had pastors that would say they don't want females to sit right in front of it.
You have to be properly dressed.
Exactly. You have to cover your hair, or you need to wear. I mean, is it not better for us? Because the question people are also asking that, how can a pastor now say he's tempted? It is better to know that you can be tempted, and this is what I am doing to protect myself.
If you recall, there's a videotape of Pastor Faras's wife.
Yes,
what she was saying, wait, listen.
You'll be walking around.
I
love that video.
Yes, now, because so you wear very tight dress with lowest cleavage. No one's going to sit in front of the auntie. You have an agenda. Let me address that. Wait, talk behind. So the young girl wears this tight dress, right, and goes straight up to the front row seat. Somebody will say, she's coming from a strip club, but maybe she just give her life to Christ.
Yes, and she has an agenda. Now, that's a problem for me, because I know that there are some people, that way that they dress is not a big deal. Someone called from the UK, and they talk about how people dress there. I have, one of my stepdaughters was saying that when she was in America, she would wear her really short shorts, and nobody would blink. They don't see you.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, so people, that thing about dressing, people dress the way that they are comfortable. So there may not be an agenda. But the thing is, I think it's the right, it's the right of the person that, you know, this is my space. So this is my space, and this is the sort of things I will not allow. And I think that a pastor or a leader has that right.
You should decide the sort of person. But I will not go to the mosque and go there with open head. So when there's rules on ground, it is to prevent abuse of things happening. So I agree that I noticed in my church, and my church is pretty, everybody is free, and a protocol officer that carries the offering basket that is well abundantly blessed. She's shapy. So, and they will carry the basket, and I noticed that I just saw all the guys in that row, everybody's eye followed that.
The basket
They followed the basket.
Or the carrier.
No, they followed the basket. And they followed the basket all the way. That's after the service, I went to speak to the pastor in charge of protocol, and it's reported that I know this lady wants to serve in the church, but based on her shape, and it's not a disadvantage, she's a distraction.
Discrimination.
Can you please, no, can you please, because she's so about, she's heavy, then she can't hide it. So she was moved into the office. Because she don't want to put other people's lives in danger. They are distracted, they are just looking and following her around.
Did your Bible say it's not God that created her? The Bible says she cannot be shaped.
She can serve God in other areas and not be.
If we go that
take this call. Yeah, if you go that route, you end it. Let me take this call from the UK. Morning, are you there?
Protect yourself.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, go ahead, please.
Okay, my name is Savannah. I'm calling for the first time. I just wanted to say that I think we forget that so-called men of God are also human beings.
Thank you.
As they have flaws and feelings and everything that we all do. And I think one thing that Christianity does that is wrong, or shall I say religion does, that is very wrong, is that they put these men of God in a high estate and think like, you feel like all of us are supposed to be children of God. We are all called to do the work of God. We are all senators. The only difference is that this person has a purpose to lead other people in a particular way. So there's not much of a difference. Just the way you want your husband to act, just the way you want your brother to act, just the way you want your friend to act with other women or around women, to respect women, to guide themselves in any way. It's the same way a man of God should act.
Thank you very much, Savannah.
So let's bring it into normal day lives, how we live our lives. I had a conversation with a friend once who said, I'm visiting my friend. I said, I thought you said she traveled. And then she said, no, I'm visiting her family. I said, but this is school time. Will the children be home? And she said, no, I want to check up on her husband. And I said, please, how is that possible? She said, no, that's how kind of friendship we are. And I found this strange to hear. I wasn't raised like that. I was raised to protect my space. So jokingly, myself and Obi Ajulu had a conversation recently. I said, just give me your gas number. I said, okay, I'll give you your gas number. Tell Oga to call Oga. That's the way I was raised.
Yes, don't call my Oga.
My belief. I think I visited Mariam once and she was like, no, someone is inside. Go inside. Where are you? She says she's not around. I will wait outside the compound.
For real?
I'm visiting
because my
you.
husband was inside.
I'm not visiting your husband.
Outside in her car
until you come.
That's the way my mom raised me.
That's the way I was raised.
You don't go and visit another person's husband.
What are you finding up and down?
See, we need to do a whole show on that. Because a lot of people don't understand personal space.
Thank you.
Or some others will go into your house and wait for you.
I'm not interested.
I'm telling you, we need to do the whole day topic. But let's go on the break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, I know we were talking about dressing for women's on break, and I remember that in South Africa, there was a church I saw actually that the women were just had wrappers. Church, they were in the choir actually. The entire mass choir only had a wrapper and the neck piece on.
But you know,
Nigeria, so that's their own tradition.
They even go.
They even go out. Yeah. So I'm thinking, here if it was done in Nigeria, they say, they were naked in church.
Because our society is different.
So going back to what Tijani said, it usually depends on the society that you live in. Now, going to what Pastor Adeboye also said, that if a woman accuses you of something, either you are right or you are wrong.
Nobody will believe you.
Nobody will believe you. Yes. So be guided.
Be wise.
Be wise, actually. Be very, very wise. So how do men protect their space? Because a woman dresses up anyhow, you cannot judge her for what she's wearing. You can't even assume she's here to seduce you, because a woman can actually accuse you of
every organization has rules and regulations. Same with the church. It's an organization. It employs people. You have rules and regulations on how you want the system to be guided. We've had many cases of many business executives that married their PA as second wives.
All of them.
It was written at the point in time that all PAs want to work with the Oga so that they can probably become second wives. And that people now decided to prevent it by having male executives. We didn't know that you could have
demanded of them.
Of male executives, so you can have a male executive to prevent yourself and protect yourself. It is not a bad thing, actually. It's not.
And it's not only about being a pastor or being in church. You see, there's something, Nima, nobody shakes her hand. They don't have to be told. She said it several times. You know it, you understand it, and you accept it. I remember, for me growing up, I think growing up in the North, we're a little more conservative. So I'm not the sort to immediately come to hug you. And I remember going to Port Harcourt one time and someone were just newly introduced and wanted to hug me, and I'm like, no. The person was upset, but over time, they just come to understand that on first time when you meet Miriam, you do not hug the person. So you have the right to choose how you want to be treated, what it is that you want, you expect people to, how you want people to behave around you.
Yes.
So it is also important to be wise when you find yourself in a situation like a leader, so that no one can accuse you, because there's something about accusation. Once it goes out, forever it taints your name. But if you're able to say, well, this is not possible. After all, this is the sort of environment I've created for myself. So where would this have happened, or where would this have occurred?
I'd like to pray that God blesses Daddy Gio, because what I see in summary, what he's saying is that in creating your environment, you're also telling the world the knowledge of what is wrong and right that you have, and what is unacceptable for you. So when you try to play it down that, no, you are free to dress whatever you like, and then take advantage of it, you know, and then come around that, you know, it's a modern world. Anybody can walk around you. It's a sort of cover-up for whatever excesses or shortcomings you have when people look at you. What your value standards are. What you can accept and say, okay, I can play around it and, you know, find a way around it. But if you're strict, like he is, insisting on what you want. He mentioned, he talked only to the flashy life. Stand on that ground, be firm on that thing that you know will cause you problems. Stand by and defend it to whatever. It tells people how you think and what you kind of person that you are.
Mubarak Oladipupo said, let's look at it this way. The people you spend most of your time with has a way of sticking to your thoughts, sometimes even more than your spouse, if care isn't taken. Personal secretaries and PAs are usually like that. Digital Greek said, wisdom is key in all we do, but understanding is the ultimate. If scripture says, flee, then Oga man of God, you know, don't even wait to stare at it in the face.
You know, there's something I feel that we haven't even discussed, which is, remember Orthodox churches, they will insist that you tie your hair and you know, dress a certain way. And then the new churches came and they allowed for young people to come the way that they are. And let us be honest, most of us prefer to go to that church because you're a young person, you only have a pair of jeans and T-shirts. So we went to those sort of churches. And I think maybe for them it was the hope that when you get there, Christ will meet you there and then maybe you change your dressing. But it has now become a situation where we are now discussing how it affects the pastor and pastoring now.
You have to round up. Can we squeeze in a few tweets?
Digital Geek said, Baba hit the nail on the head. Even Jesus, whom we all claim to emulate, never had a woman amongst his disciples. So having women come around you as a man of God might have its repercussions. I pray Lord have mercy on him as he bounces back strong. Every man should know himself and devise a means of dealing with his weaknesses. That's from Clem Uruke. Andrew Sim says, Pastor Adeboye spoke well. Even Billy Graham, when he was still alive, always had his door open for his PA to see what he was doing. We
brought up this issue because we didn't want the feminists to take over this conversation. We don't want people out there to make it look as if, oh, he's being sexist. Is he trying to say that women have to seduce you for you to be tempted? That wasn't the objective. It was important for us to make it clear that guide your space, or guard your space. Also, understand your weaknesses and ensure you protect yourself from anything you feel that will tempt you, and flee at any appearance. Simple.
Don't put cocaine in your pocket.
All right, that's what we can take. Have a fabulous day. And again, His Excellency, former Governor of Caribbean State, you really disappointed me. We are watching you. We prepared for you. In fact, I have 3 pages of questions just for you alone. But you didn't come. We'll let you go. We hope you come back soon. All right, fabulous week. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.